Nobody sees you lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake, every failure, every moment that broke something inside you. Nobody sees the way you smile during the day and fall apart the moment you're alone. Nobody sees how tired you really are, not tired like you need sleep, but tired in your soul, tired of trying, tired of pretending, tired of wondering whether things will ever actually get better or whether this is just life now. If that hit you somewhere deep, I need you to stay right here. Because this message was made for you specifically, not for the people who have it all figured out, not for the ones who've never felt the ground disappear beneath their feet. This is for the ones still standing after everything tried to knock them down. This is for the people who are broken, but still here, still breathing, still fighting, even when fighting looks like just getting out of bed one more time. Before we go further, if this kind of content speaks to your soul, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Drop a comment below and tell me what you're going through or what you've survived, because your story matters, and someone reading it may need it more than you know. Share this video with someone who is silently suffering. And stay with me until the very end, because what I'm about to tell you has the power to completely shift the way you see your pain and yourself. Let's start with the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Pain is not a sign that something went wrong with your life. Pain is not evidence that you are weak, broken beyond repair, or cursed. Pain is not punishment, and pain is not permanent, even when every single cell in your body is convinced that it is. Pain is a process, and that process, as devastating as it feels from the inside, is building something inside you that could never be built any other way. Think about the most unshakable people you have ever met in your life. Think about the ones who move through the world with a quiet, immovable confidence. The ones who don't break under pressure. The ones who face chaos and somehow stay grounded. Now ask yourself, where do you think that came from? Do you think they were just born that way? Do you think strength like that just shows up one morning as a gift? No. That kind of strength was forged. It was hammered out in the fire of suffering, loss, disappointment, and survival. Every single person you admire for their resilience earned it. Through pain they didn't choose. Through nights they barely survived. Through seasons of life that felt like they were going to swallow them whole. You are in that process right now. And I know it doesn't feel like transformation. I know it feels like destruction. I know the difference between the two is almost impossible to see when you're living inside the pain. But listen to me. Destruction and transformation can look identical from the inside. The caterpillar dissolving inside the cocoon doesn't feel like evolution. It feels like dying. But on the other side of that dissolution is something that could not have existed without it. You are the caterpillar right now, and you are becoming the thing that can fly. Let me speak to the specific pain you may be carrying, because I think you deserve more than vague inspiration. I think you deserve someone who actually sees what you're dealing with. Maybe you failed at something you gave everything to. Maybe you built something with your hands, your time, your tears, and it collapsed anyway. Maybe you started a business and it fell apart. Maybe you studied for years and still didn't get where you were trying to go. Maybe you worked harder than anyone around you and still got passed over, pushed aside, overlooked. And now there's a voice in your head, and it is relentless, telling you that failure is all you're ever going to be, that the evidence is right there, that you should just stop trying. That voice is lying to you. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of the path to it. Every person who has ever built anything worth building has a list. Sometimes a very long list of times it didn't work, times the plan fell apart, times they were humiliated and had to start over from nothing. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for not being creative enough. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before one finally said yes. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before the light bulb worked. But here's what you need to understand, and this is important. None of those failures broke them permanently because they refused to let failure be the final sentence. They let it be a paragraph, a chapter, not the whole story. Your failure is a paragraph, not the whole story. And every time you get back up after being knocked down, you are writing something far more powerful than if you had never fallen at all. Maybe it's not failure you're carrying. Maybe it's heartbreak. Maybe you loved someone completely, fully, vulnerably, and they left, or they changed, or they chose someone else, or they stayed but made you feel completely alone. And now there's a hollow place in your chest where they used to be, and everything reminds you of something you can't have anymore. and you're wondering whether you'll ever stop feeling this way, whether the wound will ever actually close, whether love like that was a mistake you should have never made. I need to say something that might feel counterintuitive. Love that hurts like that wasn't wasted. It wasn't a mistake just because it ended. The capacity to love that deeply, to risk that much, to open yourself that completely to another human being, that is not weakness. That is one of the most extraordinary things a person can do. Most people never love like that because they're too afraid. You loved without a guarantee, and the universe will not forget that kind of courage. But here is what heartbreak is really doing underneath the surface. It is rearranging you. It is revealing which parts of your identity were wrapped up in another person, parts of you that desperately need to come home to themselves. It is clearing space for something, for someone, that your old self didn't have the depth to receive yet. Heartbreak doesn't just take away. It also carves you open and makes you bigger. It teaches you things about yourself, about what you need, about what you will never settle for again, that you could not have learned any other way. Grieve, fully and without shame, but know that grief is not defeat. Grief is the price of love, and it means you loved something real. You are not broken because you're heartbroken. You are human, and you are healing, even if the healing is painfully slow. Maybe your pain is loneliness. Not the kind that comes from being physically alone, but the deeper kind. The kind where you're surrounded by people and still feel like no one really sees you, like you're performing a version of yourself every single day, and nobody is asking to see the real one. Like you're disappearing in slow motion and wondering if anyone would even notice. That loneliness is one of the heaviest things a person can carry, and it is far more common than anyone admits, because the nature of loneliness is that it convinces you that you are the only one who feels it. But you are not alone in your aloneness. There are millions of people right now, highly successful looking people, popular people, people with full lives and full social media profiles, who are lying in bed at night, feeling exactly what you feel. What loneliness is asking you to do is not to numb itself away, not to fill the silence with distraction until you can't hear it anymore. It is asking you to do the harder and more meaningful work of figuring out who you are when nobody is watching. To build a relationship with yourself that is so solid, so real, so grounded, that when the right people come into your life, you bring something whole to the table, instead of someone desperately looking to be completed. The people who know how to be alone without being consumed by it, those are the people who never need to be saved. Those are the people others are drawn to like gravity, because there is something in them that is settled and sure. That settledness is built in the quiet. It is built in exactly the kind of silence you are living in right now. Your loneliness is not the end of your story. It is the chapter where you learn to know yourself. Maybe you're fighting something that has no name in public. Maybe it's the weight of anxiety that greets you before you even open your eyes in the morning. Maybe it's depression that makes ordinary days feel like you're moving through wet cement. Maybe it's the way your mind turns against you, replaying worst-case scenarios, whispering that you are not enough, that you never will be, that something is fundamentally, unfixably wrong with you. Mental and emotional pain is real. It is not dramatic. It is not weakness. It is not something you can just think your way out of by deciding to be more positive. It is a battle that happens in the most private place in the world, inside your own mind, and fighting it every day without anyone being able to see the war takes a kind of courage that almost no one talks about. If you are fighting that battle right now, I want you to hear this clearly. Getting through today is enough. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to have the whole answer. You don't have to be better tomorrow. You just have to survive today. And if surviving today means doing one small thing, going for a walk, drinking a glass of water, calling one person who makes you feel safe, writing one sentence in a journal, then that is enough. That is victory. That is you fighting. And every day you fight is a day you are stronger than the darkness that's trying to convince you to stop. Please, if the weight becomes too heavy to carry alone, reach out to someone, a friend, a family member, a professional. Asking for help is not surrender. It is one of the most courageous things a human being can do. Let's talk about betrayal, because some of you know what it feels like to be blindsided by someone you trusted completely, someone you opened your life to, someone who knew your secrets, your scars, your fears, and they used what they knew against you, or they walked away when you needed them most, or they were someone you would have done anything for, and they couldn't be bothered to show up for you. And what betrayal leaves behind is not just hurt, it's a warped lens through which you start to see everyone. It makes you guard yourself, close off, question your own judgment. If I was wrong about them, how can I trust myself about anyone? Here's what betrayal is not allowed to do to you. And this is a decision you have to make consciously. It is not allowed to turn you into someone who cannot love. It is not allowed to permanently close the part of you that reaches for people. Because if you let it do that, if you let someone else's failure become your permanent posture toward the world, then you didn't just lose them, you lost yourself. What you do instead is this: you let the wound teach you discernment. You let the pain refine your judgment rather than destroy it. You learn to watch for patterns, to value actions over words, to take your time before you give someone full access to you. And you learn that your ability to trust again, even after being betrayed, is not foolishness, it is faith. It is a radical act of belief in the possibility of human goodness, even when you have seen its absence. The people who betrayed you revealed their character. Don't let their weakness define your future. Some of you are in financial hardship right now that is crushing you. And I don't mean stressful, I mean actually terrifying. The kind where you're doing math in your head at the grocery store. The kind where you don't sleep because numbers that don't add up keep running through your mind. The kind where you're too ashamed to tell people how bad it's gotten because you're afraid of what they'll think of you. Where every day feels like survival, and the idea of thriving feels like a fantasy meant for someone else's life. Let me tell you something about financial struggle that the world will never put on a motivational poster. It will humiliate you in ways you were not prepared for. It will test your pride, your dignity, your sense of self-worth in ways that are brutally unfair. It will make you feel like your value as a human being is directly connected to your bank account balance. And it will lie to you and tell you that the struggle means you are less. But financial hardship also does something else. It builds a kind of resourcefulness, a kind of hunger, a kind of clarity about what actually matters that no amount of comfort could ever teach you. The people who have built from absolutely nothing, who have been completely broke and still found a way, they understand the value of money, the value of work, the value of opportunity in a way that people who were handed everything simply cannot. They became dangerous. Not because they had more talent than everyone else, but because they had more fire. Your struggle is not your identity. Your struggle is your fuel. And one day, if you keep showing up, keep learning, keep refusing to let it be the final word, it will be the story that inspires someone else to keep going. You know, here is what I want you to understand about pain in the deepest sense, the truest sense, the sense that changes everything if you can let it in. Pain is one of the few forces in the universe that, when endured with intention, when you refuse to let it make you bitter, and instead decide to let it make you better, actually multiplies your capacity to live fully. Not just to survive, to actually live. To feel things at a depth that people who have never suffered cannot access. To love more fiercely because you know what loss feels like. To be more present because you know what numbness costs. To be more compassionate because you know what it's like to need compassion and not receive it. Suffering, when it does not destroy you, does not just leave you where you were. It expands you. It makes more room inside you. It opens chambers of experience and understanding and empathy that were sealed before the pain came in and broke them open. And what fills those chambers, if you let it, is wisdom and compassion and the kind of deep bedrock strength that only gets stronger when tested. That is not a comfortable truth, but it is a real one. The pressure that crushes one thing transforms another. Coal becomes diamond under pressure. Iron becomes steel under heat. And you are becoming something under this weight that you cannot see yet, but that is real, and that is coming. I want to talk to you about the concept of the warrior mentality, not the version that social media sells you, where being a warrior means you never cry, never break, never admit you're struggling. That version is fiction. That version is what breaks people in silence and makes them too proud to ask for help. The true warrior mentality is this: I am not okay right now, and I am going to keep going anyway. It is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward while fear is in the room. It is not the absence of tears, it is the ability to cry and then wipe your face and get back to work. It is not pretending the wound doesn't exist, it is refusing to let the wound become your whole identity. Real warriors bleed, real warriors fall. Real warriors have entire seasons of their lives where they cannot see the path forward, and they walk anyway, slowly, carefully, in the dark, because stopping is the only thing they absolutely refuse to do. That is you. That has always been you. You have already survived every difficult thing that has come for you so far, every single one. And here you are, still in the fight. That is not nothing. That is everything. Discipline, let's go there. Because one of the most powerful things pain can teach you, if you let it, is discipline. Not the kind of discipline you feel motivated to have on good days. The kind you build on the days when motivation has completely abandoned you. The kind that shows up when every part of you would rather stay in bed and disappear. There is something that happens when you do the thing anyway. When you don't feel like it, when the fear is loud, when the grief is heavy, when the exhaustion is bone deep, and you do it anyway. You get up anyway. You show up anyway. You take the next step anyway. Something inside you shifts. Something gets reinforced. A message gets sent to the deepest part of your identity that says, I am someone who doesn't quit. And every time you send that message, you make it more true. Consistency in darkness is worth more than brilliance in the light. The person who keeps going when everything is falling apart is the person who builds something that cannot be undone. Because they have proven to themselves, through lived experience, through repeated action, that they are unbreakable. Not because life couldn't break them, because they chose, over and over again, not to stay broken. That choice is available to you right now, in this moment, today. Not mute. There is a purpose hidden inside your pain. I know that sounds like something written on a coffee mug, and I know it can feel hollow when you're in the middle of suffering. But I am not talking about some vague, sentimental idea. I am talking about something specific and real. Your pain has made you someone capable of helping people who are going through exactly what you've been through, in a way that no one who hasn't lived it possibly could. Your heartbreak made you someone who understands heartbreak. Your financial struggle made you someone who understands financial fear. Your depression made you someone who can sit with another person in their darkness and not flinch and not offer hollow solutions, because you know what hollow solutions feel like. The specific shape of your suffering is the specific shape of your gift to the world. Not in spite of what you've been through, because of it. What you do with this pain, whether you let it calcify into bitterness or alchemize into purpose, that is the most important creative decision of your life. And it is entirely yours to make. Choose purpose. Choose the harder path of transformation over the easier path of resentment. Choose to let what broke you become what makes you. Not because it was fair, it probably wasn't, but because you are capable of something extraordinary. And the world needs what your pain has built inside you. I want to speak directly into the fear that lives underneath all the other pain. The fear that whispers, what if it never gets better? What if I try again and fail again? What if the next chapter is just as hard as this one? What if I am fundamentally, permanently not enough? Fear is ancient. Fear is biological. Fear has been inside human beings since long before language existed. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are alive. The question is not how to eliminate fear. The question is how to stop letting it be the thing that makes your decisions. Here is what I know about the future. I cannot promise you it will be easy. I cannot promise you that the pain will stop quickly or that the struggle will end on any timeline that feels fair. What I can promise you, because it is simply empirically true, is that you will be different.